You know, there's a proper way to start a review of a Blue Mountain State movie, and since I didn't have any stuff to make mojitos, my lord's gonna have to do, so let's go goats. Let's do a review. Blue Mountain State, The Rise of Thadland, which if you can't tell already, I was a backer of on Kickstarter, therefore pretty decently excited about this movie. I have to admit that I generally approach crowdfunded movies with a little bit of worry going into them, basically under the notion that if the script was strong enough and if the demand was strong enough, an actual studio would put money behind the project. Now, there's a lot that goes on in the movie world that I'm not very savvy to, no matter how much Entourage I have watched, but that's my general feeling, and in this case, we have a TV show that was loved by many that somehow didn't get renewed for a fourth season, and the creators ended up going the crowdfunding route to eventually give us Blue Mountain State, The Rise of Thadland. And throughout the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie, I had a little bit of that worrisome feeling of, oh no, they ran out of all their mojo. They take a little bit too long to reintroduce characters that we're already familiar with, and some of the pacing with it all seems a little bit slower paced than what we generally got with the TV show, which was usually fast paced and always moving forward. After those first 10 to 15 minutes though, things do pick up, and really in a big way in my opinion, to where it definitely feels once again like Blue Mountain State, only this time around, it's a feature film, so it feels on a bigger scale than anything we really got in the TV episodes, and it's a lot of fun. Pretty much all of the characters that fans of the show know and love are back and doing their thing, but again, with this being a full-length feature film, most of it's on somewhat of a bigger scale. Some characters don't get quite as much screen time as you might feel they deserve. Marty Daniels was one of them in particular, although they do make an epic reference with him to former Arkansas head coach Bobby Petrino and his whole motorcycle scandal. They pretty much mirror that with Coach Daniels, and for those that get that reference, pretty freaking epic. The main focus though is Thad and Alex, as they were sort of the main drivers of things all along. Thad has gone to the NFL, the #1 overall pick, and has all this money to throw around and basically do whatever he wants. Alex Moran, as we can see from the trailers, kind of has his back up against the wall with the university trying to seize the goat house, and he can't let that happen. So he basically has to succumb to the will of Thad to try and get some of his money to save the goat house, in which Thad demands to throw the most epic party ever and to build essentially Thad's own personal amusement park, Thadland. Now, I gotta say that as much as I've always loved Thad as a character, the way Darren Brooks plays the role of Alex Moran has always absolutely amazed me. I mean, that guy's ability to show facial reactions of basically conveying the words of like, what the hell? In just so many different ways and to so many different situations is absolutely incredible, and there was more of that in this movie. Seriously, that dude is fantastic. Jimmy Tatro is brought into the mix that pretty much plays a character that is Thad's bitch. He does whatever Thad asks for him, and Thad throws a check his way. But the character was absolutely nailed by Jimmy Tatro. It was one of the brighter spots of the entire movie, and if Blue Mountain State were to be resurrected as a TV series, which is something they've kind of thrown out there as a possibility, if the movie does really well, I think it's probably a long shot, but if it did happen, I would really hope they could bring Jimmy Tatro's character into the mix full time because, again, he was fantastic. Now, I will say that this movie is far from perfect. Like I said before, it starts a little bit slow, and there's a couple other just kind of odd feeling parts scattered about, as well as a subplot or two that just seem really forced and don't really make sense or offer anything to the bigger picture of the story. With that said, this movie does offer up a huge crazy party montage type scene that literally might be the single best scene of that kind that I have ever witnessed. I was gonna say that it was maybe the single best party scene that I had ever seen, but that would have been homonym overkill. It's a real thing. Really, on the whole, Blue Mountain State, The Rise of Thadland doesn't really do anything that hasn't been done before in these college party type movies. It's more like if Van Wilder, Old School, Animal House, Project X, and every single illicit drug that's ever crossed the Mexican border into the United States all had a baby. It would be Blue Mountain State, The Rise of Thadland. For people that aren't fans of the show, you probably won't enjoy it nearly as much as those who have followed the TV series. If you did follow the TV series, I think you'll enjoy watching this movie. I personally enjoyed it quite a bit and am excited to watch it a second time. The biggest piece of advice I would have is to not go into this movie with any lofty expectations. And I know that's generally probably a good idea with any movie, but again, I think skepticism toward crowdfunded movies is a little bit valid because they have their backs against the wall a little bit more with such a limited budget. So going into it, you've got to know that any snags they might hit, they sort of just have to work around. And I will say that in the end, having given them $30 of my own money to make this movie, I was pleased with the finished product. In the end, your opinion of this movie might drastically differ from my own, and that is totally fine. Please feel free to share those thoughts with me in the comments. I'm usually pretty active down there. I like talking movies, especially with a project that I was a Kickstarter backer for, like Blue Mountain State. I just like Blue Mountain State in general. So if you have any thoughts, you just want to talk some BMS, feel free to share them. If you like this video, please click that like button. I always appreciate it. If you want more videos like this one, click the subscribe button. You know the whole drill there. And as always, everybody, thank you for watching, and go Goats! Leave their home to buy movie tickets to watch a bunch of giant slugs rise to power. Just my thoughts. Number 5 is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, I know a lot of people have speculated that the third anthology film that's been announced will be an Obi-Wan story, but that hasn't yet been confirmed, and there's also been speculation a lot of other directions